Rabbi Elad, I think everything was said already. There's not so much that I can add, but I can tell you how much I'm honored and pleased to be part of this daf of the Shnayim Yomi that's reaching out so many people in so many good ways, changing people's understanding in the Torah, and it's all the work that you're doing, and I feel honored to be part of this beautiful initiative of yours that's reaching out, as the rabbi said, reaching out much further than we thought in the very beginning, as the rabbi explained. We're going to learn today, Be'ezrat Hashem, about the Halachot of Shnayim, Mikra, Echad, Targum. We're going to go through the Halachot very quickly. Rabbi Elad asked me to ask everybody that if there's questions, we'll keep them for the end. We try to address in the end the questions. Not that I know answers, but when people bring out questions, so the discussion itself is going to be more productive and fruitful, and Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll maybe have some homeworks when we go back home. But we'll start with the very beginning, and that is what the rabbi mentioned in the shiur. Ve'ele shemot is the Rashi Tevot, as the rabbi said, Chayav Adam Likra Parasha, Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum. But what's written over here, as was mentioned, is the incentive that we have by reading Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum, and that is what the Baal HaTurim says, that Adam asher lomed haseder Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum, as was said, B'kol Naim, it says over there that he'll be zocheh leshanim rabot ve'neimot, which means you have over here a promise from the Baal HaTurim, besides the promise of the Gemara itself in Brachot Daf Chet. The Gemara in Brachot Daf Chet says that kol hamashlim parshiyotav im hatzibur mashlimim lo yamav ushnotav. So the Gemara tells you that it's completion of his life, which means a person would live to whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu intended for him, the same amount of years and days that HaKadosh Baruch Hu intended from him. What the Baal HaTurim adds is that he gets ribui, he gets even more than that. Just to explain this, there's a Gemara in Yevamot Daf Nun. The Gemara has a machloket Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim over there, whether a person could lose years from his life, which means a person has a certain amount of life years. It's the pasuk says mispar yamecha amale, as a bracha. A person could have completion of his years in his lifetime, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a certain person a certain amount of years and days, and whether he fills it up to the top, actually lives it all up to the time, that depends on the way he lives his life. If he sins, the Gemara says that he might lose time from his life, chas v'shalom lo aleinu. That is an opinion of Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim. There's no machloket over that when a person sins, he could lose time from his life. If a person makes mitzvot, especially Zikuy Rabim, as Rav Elad says over here, so then there's a machloket whether they add time to his life. But this is the idea of mashlimim lo, which means even if a person already on default, he has lost some years of his life, he has the ability, which Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum, to bring that as a remedy to fix it up and bring back those years that he lost out. And what does it mean, shnotav, yamav v'shnotav? What's the difference between yamav and shnotav? That's another Gemara. It's a known Gemara all the way in the end of Moed Katan. The Gemara over there says that there's something called karet. Karet deshane ve'karet deyome, which means a person that lives, there's a machloket, Yerushalmi and Bavli and the Rishonim, many Rishonim brings this down, whether the days of karet are up to 50, which means a person will die lo alenu before the age of 50 or before the age of 60. As the Gemara tells about Rav Yosef that in the age of, when he came to the age of 60, he made a party. He made a seudah. Why? He says that he was able to take himself away from the karet. He was saved from the karet because he lived up to 60 years. But when they told him that, he said that indeed he was saved from karet de shane, but not necessarily karet de yome. What does that mean? What's the karet de yome that maybe that even if a person gets to 60 years, he might he still have to be worried about, as Rav Yosef did. Rabbeinu Bechai explains in the beginning of Vayikra, he says that since a person reaches that age, still he might not live to the end of what was meant for him. Let's say a person was supposed to live up to 120. In the age of 60, it's beautiful. It's karet the shane. But who says that he's going to live all the way up to what was intended for him, and therefore, karet the yome could take that out. The way to fix it, there's different ways that the Gemara says in different places, but over here we learn there's another way how to fix karet the shane and karet the yome, because the Gemara says, mashlimim lo yamav ushnotav. It's a beautiful thing. It's a non-Rashbash. I write this about this. I bring this Rashbash in my Sefer, Shafi Ativ on Corona. I bring there's three different categories, three different levels that was intended for a person and how a person could live his life and change them, which means like this. The Rashbash says there are three types of people. One type is those people that was intended for them to live a certain amount of life years, and they will live that amount of life years. They were meant to live up to, let's say, 80. It's according to the Teva that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them, the way the cells work, the way the body works. Usually, you see that the person reaches out the life years of his parents. Why is that? Because it goes in inheritance from one to the other. So, therefore, a person might live up to that amount of years. This is one category of people. Then says the Rashbash, there's another category of people that, although it was intended for them to live, let's say, up to the age of 80, but they could change that. They could have less or more. Depends on what they do in their life. They do mitzvot, they do averot. It's very... It could fluctuate, it could change according to what they do in their life. That is the second thing. So a person always needs to worry about doing averot, because although maybe you're not going to be affected right away, but it could affect a person in a certain amount of years from now, which is a very dangerous thing. And then they say, oh, this person died young. Yes, of course, a person died young. He lived his life not the way he should be. Another category of people is people that, although they're meant to live a certain amount of years, and even they do everything correctly, they're big tzaddikim, and they even extend their lifespan to longer lifetime, but if they put themselves in danger, they might lose their life because they put themselves in danger. When you put yourself in danger, then the danger itself could get the person. It's not something that a person is allowed to do. He's not allowed to put himself in danger. The Sefer Hasidim, I write this in this week's newsletter on a different topic, but I wrote about going to Eretz Yisrael in this time, whether it's permitted or not. It came out that it's permitted, although there's a war. But I bring out the Sefer Hasidim that says that one that goes into a place of danger, like for instance, skied on ice. He goes on an ice place, and to daytime would be driving on the snow quickly. It's a dangerous thing. He might make an accident. Or a person that starts fighting with people that might harm him. You fight with somebody in New York. People in New York, half of them have guns and they don't hesitate to use them. There's no fear. So you have to be very careful what you do. Says the Sefer Hasidim, if you get into trouble because of the way you behave right now, you start fighting with somebody in the street over a parking spot, and he takes a gun, he shoots you, or he starts beating you up, it's your fault. You're going to get punished for it, says the Sefer Hasidim. So over here, this is what the Rashbash is saying, that there's three categories. One that would live the amount of life that he needs to live. One that would live less or more, depends on his merits or sins. And a third category, if he changes the way, if he misbehaves, if he does things that he's not allowed to do, not halachically, not in Torah, but rather he starts doing things that are dangerous, he might change that. So according to the way we're explaining right now, Ma'arichim lo yamav u'shnotav would be a beautiful thing. It gets extended. Mashlimim lo yamav u'shnotav would be at least the remedy to fix those times that he sinned, and he gets the full level that he needs of time life that he needs to get. By the way, the Gemara says Mashlimim lo yamav u'shnotav. The Tur changes and says Ma'arichin lo yamav u'shnotav. So it could be that it fits very good with what he says in Baal HaTurim. Just to say, there's another incentive that Orchot Chaim brings down. A beautiful thing. He says that a person that reached Shnayim Mikra Echad Targum on Friday, on Erev Shabbat, his he has a haftacha, he has a promise that he's going to be saved from averot chamurot, severe sins. Very, very interesting. Now, a person obviously has the ability to sin if he wants to. Nobody stops you from doing an avera. But what it means is that you have less the incitement to do avera. The etzara, let's go a little bit, is not with full force. Normally a person is constantly looking to do, such a person that constantly looks to do an avera. Over here, he would get like a break, and it's not going to be as severe. Let's see some of the halachot, but before we get into the halachot, I want to tell you the reasons for Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. There is a big machloket in the Rishonim. What's the reason we read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum? It's very interesting. The Rosh and the Chinuch says that the Chinuch himself writes in the Hakdama, Sefer HaChinuch, all the way in the end of his Hakdama, he says a reason for reading Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. Normally the Sefer HaChinuch only says mitzvot HaTorah, not mitzvot derabanan. Over here it's mitzvah derabanan. By the way, the Aruch HaShulchan writes that this mitzvah of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum was established by Moshe Rabbeinu when he was metaken that people should read the Torah, Kriyat HaTorah, 3 times a week. והלכו 3 ימים במדבר ולא מצאו מים, אין מים אלא תורה. Moshe Rabbeinu was metaken that people should read the Torah. The Aruch HaShulchan says that he established also that people should read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, just to explain that Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum is a complete obligation. It's not something that's recommended. It's not something that a person has it's optional, it's voluntarily. No, it's a complete obligation. The Gemara says that Le'olam Mikra Adam, a person should read, but the Rambam changes, so we won't be mistaken to think it's voluntary, it's a nice thing, a person has the options. No, the Rambam says V'chayav Adam likro Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, and this is how the Shulchan Aruch says. The Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Resh Pei Hei, which is the halacha of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, it says אף על פי שאדם שומע כל התורה כולה בכל שבת בציבור, חייב לקרוא עצמו בכל שבוע פרשת אותו שבוע שניים מקרא ואחד תרגום, which means it's complete obligation. It's so much so of an application that even תלמידי חכמים that learn Torah all day, you would think if שניים מקרא ואחד תרגום is about learning Torah, they are learning Torah, so they're learning Gemara. It's more in depth, it's more important. They're doing things already on the same subject, on the same line. Maybe there should be patur. So the Otzar HaGeonim brings down that Talmid Chacham, even if Talmid Chacham Muflag, is obligated in reading Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. And this is how also Moshe Feinstein brings down, and this is how Chacham Ovadia. And the explanation, they say, is very simple, because it's a mitzvah derabanan. Just like you wouldn't say that a Talmid Chacham should not stop his learning to go and hear Kriyat HaMegillah because he's learning, so he should be patur from Kriyat HaMegillah. It's also Torah, he should be patur. Of course, we don't say that. Talmid Chacham has to go and hear Kriyat HaTorah, just like any other mitzvah derabanan. So is here, a person is mechuyav, Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. The Grot Moshe even brings down that even people that in the darga of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai ve'chaverav that are patur from tefillah, Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, they're obligated. It's a mitzvah derabanan. Even if you say that a person learns Gemara, the Ma'alar of Gemara, by the way, the Tosfot in Kiddushin Daf Lamed says that Gemara, Talmud Bavli, is Bavli Lashon Balul. It's mixed with all the Torah Kula. It has in it the Torah, it has the Mishnah, it has Nevi'im, it has everything in it. So when you learn Bavli, you're learning everything. You would think maybe you are Patur. No, you're not Patur, because even if you're learning Gemara that has everything, you still have to once in a while learn over and repeat and do Chazara over the Chumash, and therefore over here is the place that Chachamim obligated us to do that Chazara. Even according to the Rambam. The Rambam says that Le'olam Yashlish Adam Shnotav, Le'olam Yamav. A person has to divide his day. He has to divide his day, third to Torah Shebichtav, third to Torah Shebe'al Peh, and third to be mitbonen, to look into it, to learn it more in depth. Says the Rambam, that's only betchilat limudo, when he starts learning. But then when he gets ahead of the game, and he knows already Chumash, Nach, he knows already Mishnayot, he learns already Gemara, then he should concentrate on learning Gemara the whole day. But, says the Rambam, lifrakim, once in a while he should learn also Chumash to repeat, otherwise people forget. So therefore, says Rav Moshe Feinstein, you need to know that this is where Chachamim obligated us to go and repeat that Chumash in Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. So when we come back to the reasons you learn Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, we find a machloket in the Rishonim. The Chinuch and the Rosh say that the reason that Chachamim established for us Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum is in order to be mitbonen b'parasha, to learn better the parasha. As Rav Elad does, a person that listens to Shnayim Yomi, he has more depth and understanding in the parasha. Then he comes to read the Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, he has better understanding in the parasha. Question on that would be, that's very nice, that could be the reason you learn the Targum. The Targum is a translation and some enlightenment on the parasha, but why do you need to read the psukim? That's not any depth on the parasha. That's just the surface words that tell us that's not what they mean to say. So we need a little bit of clarification on their pshat. Also, there's a pshat that was brought down in Trumat Hadeshen from Avenu Hananel. The Meiri says the same thing. He says that the reason you learn Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, why do you read it? In order to be fluent in the Chumash, to know, just like the Chachamim, just like the congregation reads the Chumash. So you need to know also all the psukim. It needs to be fluent. You need to be baki. It needs to be something that's shagur bilshono, so to speak. So therefore, the question on that would be, that's good for reading the Mikra, but why do you read the Targum? There's no reason for the Targum. Targum comes to explain in depth what it means, not to help you be fluent in the parasha. A third understanding that is written in the Rishonim, Trumat Hadeshen brings the Ramban. He says that the reason we read is in order to complete the Torah, just like the congregation completes the Torah. We are obligated, just like the congregation reads the Torah in the shul, we have to read the Torah also in our own house. And with that, we really don't understand at all why is that you need to also read the Targum itself. Targum, there's no reason to read. Why do you read the Targum? Over here, there's an interesting Ravan. Ravan is also, these are all Kadmonim, Rishonim. He says that the reason you read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, Shnayim Mikra is keneged the person that's Oleh la Torah. The second Mikra is keneged the Baal Koreh. And the Targum is the keneged HaMetargem. Now, it used to be in the time of the Gemara that they read the Chumah, they would read the Torah, and while they read the Torah, they read one pasuk, and there would be a metargem that would be reading the Unkulus, Targum Unkulus, right then and there. And if you want to know who does it today, who does it? The Yemenite. They have the Mamash do it the way they did it back then in their time. They would read the pasuk, and then the Metargem, איך אומרים את זה? Metargem, stand over there, but I want to warn you, if you go to a Yemen shul, you're not finishing 11 o'clock. You're not finished. If you're hungry, man, have a good meal beforehand, if that's permitted, only if you're Chabad. Okay. So these are the ta'amim that's brought down in the Rishonim, which is an interesting thing that a person should know. The Chazon Ish writes another insight. He says that the reading of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum should be the following way. You read one pasuk, you read the Targum, and then another pasuk. Not the way the halacha, not like all other poskim say to do. He says you read one pasuk, then you read the Targum, and why? He says, just like the Gemara says, Ligros ve'adar lisvor. A person should always read, the Gemara says, just run through the Torah, just as much as you can grab, just go through it, and after you're fluent in the Torah, then ligros. First you are gores as much as possible, then you me'ayen in each halacha, in each sugya. That's the way things should be done. So the Chazon Ish says that's what we do. First ligros, which means first the pasuk, then lisvor, then the unkulus, the targum gives you an understanding, and then afterwards you read again. Why do you read again? Probably you read again the pasuk to do chazara of the pasuk you did before. So it's an important thing that you read ligros, then lisvor, and then chazara. Chazara is a very, very important part of learning Torah. Okay, that ends that. Let's go a little bit into the halacha. So we said Talmidei Chachamim are obligated to read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum just like everybody else. A woman, on the other hand, is not reading Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. Why? The reason is because Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum is part of learning Torah. And women are not obligated to learn Torah. They're just not. And therefore, the women are patur from Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. I saw in a sefer that brings down that Rav Chaim Kanievsky said that women should also read. I saw this in the Yalkut Yosef. He brings down that Rav Chaim Kanievsky says that women also should read, but he brings from many poskim, including Menashe Klein and Chacham Ovadia also bring that women are not obligated, the way we explained right now, that it's part of learning Torah. How about kids? Kids, before Bar Mitzvah, also should be taught as part of chinuch to read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum as much as they can. Sometimes it's very hard, but you get them trained to it. It's a very important thing to do. When a person learns with the kids, he learns with the kids. He just malamet tinokot, he learns with them the parashot. The halacha in Shulchan Aruch says that melamdei tinokot en tzrichim lachzor velikroa parasha b'Shabbat. Since the melamed tinokot, the person himself read the parasha together with the tinokot, with the kids, he just goes through the parasha, so therefore he doesn't need to read it again. The question is, why not? He read, it didn't mean for Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. You need to have an intention that it's for that. So could be from here we see that since it's a mitzvah derabanan could be that it doesn't need kavanah. Mitzvot en tzrichot kavanah when we're dealing with the mitzvah derabanan. This is really a machloket. It's brought down in Siman Samech. The Mishnah Berurah brings it in Seif Yud, Siman Samech. He brings the Radbaz that says, like I said, that mitzvot derabanan, although mitzvot deoraita, the Shulchan Aruch says that mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, a person needs to intend that he's doing it for the mitzvah before he does the mitzvah. But when we're dealing with mitzvot derabanan, the Magen Avraham brings the Radbaz that mitzvot einam tzrichot kavanah in mitzvot derabanan. So could be that's the way the Shulchan Aruch is posek like. But the problem is that the Mishnah Berurah brings that the Bet Yosef seems to hold for many places that mitzvot tzrichot kavanah even in mitzvot derabanan. And this is how also the Gaon Mivilna says. So that would be a little bit problematic here, that you see not like that. You see that mitzvot, according to the Shulchan Aruch over here, melamdei tinokot en tzrichim lachzor velikroa parasha b'Shabbat, it seems like mitzvot en tzrichot kavanah b'mitzvot derabanan, unless a person wants to be dochek the roots over here. By the way, this is nafka mina today much more for a person that prepares the parasha to read on Shabbat, a Baal Koreh. So he reads the parasha a few times. With that, he's yotzeh Shnayim Mikra. All he has to do is Targum. He doesn't need to do more than that. A very common question that Rabbi Elad told me that will be asked, so therefore we are makdim, says the questions that people might ask is whether a person could read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. The Targum, he should read it in English or in Russian. Each person in the language you understand. In French, they don't understand Hebrew. You go to shul, some of the people have no clue what the Hebrew says. They give them unkulus. That's even 1,000 times harder. But you need to understand, I want to tell you something very important about unkulus. Unkulus is very important, whether back then the unkulus, the Targum, was to understand better the Chumash. People were fluent in Aramaic. But today, nobody speaks Aramaic. So why do we say unkulus? We'll see soon the reason. It's Zochem min Hashamayim and so on. And it was given in Har Sinai, the Mishnah Berurah, together with the Torah. It was given, the Targum was given in that language in Har Sinai. It's a beautiful thing. But today people don't understand it. So how does it help? Maybe you should read something else. A big ma'ala of learning the Targum every week is that you gain with that the new language, Aramaic. Who cares about Aramaic? Why should I know Aramaic? Where am I going to speak it in the world? No country in the world speaks Aramaic. The answer is, if you want to learn Gemara, you need to know Aramaic. You need to know what the Gemara is saying. So one that comes to learn Gemara is stuck, Today you have the art scroll. Every word, you look at the art scroll. But if you do Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, you start knowing Aramaic. Within a year, 2 years, you become fluent in Aramaic. Then you learn the Gemara. You don't need the art scroll anymore. It's a beautiful thing. Same thing with the Hebrew, with the Shnayim Mikra. Some people don't know the Lashon HaKodesh. It's beautiful for them. They're learning this way Lashon HaKodesh. Secondly, even a person that knows Lashon HaKodesh, we said that the Ta'amim, according to Rabbeinu Hanan, is to be fluent in the Torah. You start learning and you're going through the parasha, you become fluent in what the parasha says. You know how embarrassing it is when somebody comes to talk to you at work or somewhere else, and he tells you something on a parasha, and you're like, I didn't pay attention. The parasha said such a thing. I don't remember such a story. Why? Because when you reread it in the Kriyat Torah, some people tend to dream, right? They think about everything else but what you're reading, because the Baal Koreh is reading quick. So over here you have another chance, another 2 chances to go through it, so you gain with that, understanding what the parasha tells us, the stories you gain by knowing what the Torah stories are, and different laws of the Torah, and you start knowing where they are in the Torah. After a couple of years, they tell you, where's this mitzvah written? You know in which parasha to open, more or less. You get to be knowledgeable in Torah. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Besides that, it's a mitzvah, deoraita, to learn Torah. There's no question about this. But learning the Targum, we said, also would help you out a lot of learning the Gemara itself. So, can a person learn the Targum in other languages, English, French, and so on? It's brought down in the Dirshu. He brings that Rav Moshe Feinstein allowed it. But we have to understand like this. Tosfot already asked this question in Brachot Tafchet. The Rosh brings that. They bring that those that wanted to say that it's permitted, and then they say that be'etzem it shouldn't be permitted because the Targum was zoche, as I said, min hashamayim. The Targum Unkulus was zoche min hashamayim, that a person should read Targum Unkulus. So therefore a person should read that. What about Rashi? Rashi, they say, in the Halakha it's brought down, the Rashi a person could learn instead of the Targum. So if a person wants to learn Rashi instead of the Targum, Shulchan Aruch himself is posek im lamad ha-parasha perush Rashi, chashuv kamo Targum. It's just like the Targum. By the way, this is the Rosh. Chashuv kemo Targum. It's equivalent to the Targum. The Smag said it's adif min ha-Targum. It's even better. Lemaise, the Shulchan Aruch says, Yerei Shamayim should do Targum and Rashi. Both. So, again, you're spending some time, but in the end of the day, if you don't know a Rashi, I remember when I was in yeshiva and somebody asked me a question, then they showed me it's a Rashi, it would be like the biggest embarrassment. Like a Yid that doesn't know a Rashi in Chumash, it's like, it's mamash malbin pnei chavero barabim. How he catch you on basic Yiddish information, basic Judaism, Rashi, like it's the Aleph Bet. If somebody asks you your basic information, you don't know. So yes, you'll spend a little bit time, but it's an investment that's worthwhile. It's very much worthwhile. Anyway, Lemaise, the Rav Natronai Gaon, Rav Amram Gaon say that a person should not do other languages, but learn the Unkulus the way it is. And the Biur Halacha says, because there's a Ma'ala in Unkulus, as we explained, it also was Nitan in Har Sinai, it also was Zoche, it also mefaresh every word, and sometimes enlightens you with things. And Rashi, on the other hand, gives you the Perushe Chazal, the Drashot of Chazal. Rashi is Al Pi Adrash, is beautiful things that enlightens you of what the parasha is really saying. So there's a Ma'ala in Rashi, there's a Chisaron in Rashi that it's not necessarily on every word and every pasuk, and that's where the Targum comes to complete. But you have over here Ma'ala in Rashi that it goes in depth. So each thing has a Ma'ala and a Chisaron. That's why a person should read that. By the way, the Chut Shani of Nissim Kareli Tzatzal writes that if a person decides to do Rashi instead of Unkulus, as the Halacha in Shulchan Aruch brings down, he needs to actually say it in his mouth. You can't just read Rashi in your heart, in your head. You have to say it, because if you're saying it instead of Targum, it needs to be spoken out. That's a very important thing. Let's speak about stopping in the middle. It takes time to read Shnayim Mikra Echad Targum. Can you stop in the middle to shmooze? So we speak about two things. Stopping in the middle to speak to your friend. You get a phone call today. People are addicted to their phone. They're like, the Chumash is here and the phone is right here. Some people has the phone here and the Chumash here. So there's different levels. Like you go to shul and people have their phone and in the middle of Shmoneh Esrei, some people don't even say they're like, yeah, I'll speak to you soon, I'm in the shul. Some people just leave them in the middle of Shmoneh. Look, I don't want to say on Kitrugim on Klal Israel. Today we need to say Sanegoria, but I'm saying that if a person gets a phone call in the middle of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, is it permitted to stop? The very first Be'er Hetev in this halacha, in the Siman Resh Pei Hei, why is it on Siman Resh Pei Hei? My friend told me once that it's Rafeh. Rafeh is because people are Rafeh. Rafeh means weak. Nirpim. The people are Rafeh in this halacha of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. That's where Rabbi Elad comes to be Mechazek et Nirpim. So it's brought down in the very beginning by Retev. He says the following words. It's a scary thing. He says, Isur gadol להפסיק בקריאת שניים ואחד תרגום בדיבור. It's a very big prohibition to stop. So you look at that. Not only I have to read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, not only that it's a good thing to read Rashi, not even allowed to speak in the middle. It's a Isur gadol. Okay? But it's a Isur gadol to stop in the middle of Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. Says the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah himself brings down that if a person could read without stopping, אם אפשר לו שלא יפסיק בשניים מקרא ואחד תרגום על שום דבר, טוב ויפה מאוד. It's a nice thing. So the Mishnah Berurah seems to say it's a nice thing, but not that it's a Yisur Chamur. But in Sha'ar HaTziyun, he explains the following. He says, נראה לי דהו בין פרשה לפרשה. That's only if you stop between parashot. But in the middle of reading, he says that it's asur. And he brings a Be'er Hetev that says that it's a Yisur Gamur to stop in the middle. This is also how the Mekubalim bring down, Chacham Ovadia Nechavet Da'at has a tshuva on this. He says that al pi pshat it's permitted to speak, but al pi Kabbalah it's asur. Lemaise we see that the postim take this very seriously within the psukim or within any place that's not hefsek parasha. What's a hefsek parasha? If you take a look at the Chumash, many places you see that it says patuach pei or samech. Patuach sagur, which means this is the hefsek parasha in the Torah itself. You see there's a gap between two psukim. It doesn't go fluently. There's a gap of 9 letters between two psukim, 9 letter space. So this is a hefsek parasha. Over there, if you stop, you're permitted to stop. It's yafeh v'na'eh v'tov not to stop, but it's not asur. It's asur to stop any other place. This is how the Be'er Hetev brings down the story, nice story, that the Ben Ish Chai brings down in Sefer Ben Ish Chai. I bring it also in my Sefer on Teilim, Shafi Ativ al Teilim. The story goes like this. He says that there was a man, a tzaddik, a Resh Hamayim, he says that used to read Teilim every Shabbat. In the afternoon, read Teilim. And during the Teilim, during the reading of Teilim, it takes time. It takes like 2 hours to finish the Sefer. People would come to his house and they would ask him questions. He would answer. He would talk in the middle of Kriyat Teilim. Then, one Shabbat, he fell asleep. That's a story from the Ben Ish Chai. He says that it's a true story. That's what he says. One day, this tzaddik fell asleep on Shabbat while he was reading, or afterwards, he fell asleep. And then he sees in his dream, unbelievable thing. He sees that there's Malachei HaSharet that come to take his Teilim. Beautiful. He was reading the whole Shabbat. And while they come in to elevate the Sefer Teilim that he was reading, then Malachei Chabala come in. Woo! They come in. So he says, what happened? What happened? He says, come, read it. Read your Teilim. So he says, Ashrei Aish Asher Lo, and over there he starts saying, מה שלומכם, הכל בסדר, איך היה הקוגל היום, שלא הלך בהצעת צדיקים, and so on and so forth. He sees the different words, and this is the way it's written in his Sefer Teilim, in the dream, that they come to present in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The man in the dream sees this, he gets all shaken up. He says, please, they ask him, do you want us to take it in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, give it to him as a gift? He says, Chas v'shalom, it's difrei kfira, look at this, it's all mumbled, and some things are extremely, come out to be very bad things, the way it's mentioned here. So therefore, don't take it. Said, okay, fine, but while he was saying, don't take it, the Malachei HaChabbalah grabbed it from him, and they said, we're going to take it. He said, they said, we're going to take it in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was all shaken up, scared, and he woke up. When he woke up, he went to the rabbi. The rabbi told him, do teshuvah, everything will be okay, just don't do it again. So this is a story that maybe halachically you're allowed to stop in the middle of Tehillim. Maybe halachically you're allowed to stop in the middle of Kriyat Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum al pi pshat, the way Chacham Ovadia says. But the Ben Ish Chai brings you a story of what really happens in Shamayim. It's correct not to stumble on those things, and be careful not to read in such a way. This is only hefsek, as it says over here, bedibur. What about if you want to drink, you want to eat? It's very hard to read so long. You want to have coffee, you want to have some cookies. That is something that is permitted. It says in the Chaveh Da'at, he brings down Chacham Ovadia, that eating and drinking is permitted. Although it's permitted, one needs to be careful not to eat while he's reading Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, or drink, in other words, while he's chewing, he has in his mouth a candy, not to read like that, Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, as it says in the Gemara, Maleh pi te'ilatecha, a person should, while he's saying Te'ilat Hashem, should have his mouth clean. It could be over here, you could be mechalek. It's not Te'ilat Hashem, it's Limud Torah. It's for you, it's not as a gift to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we said before in Tehillim. So it could be there's a chiluk, but it's correct not to do it that way. When a person reads Tehillim, he has, this is an interesting sugya. A person that really doesn't have time, he doesn't have time to sit down Erev Shabbat, or throughout the week, and read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. Can he read the psukim while the Baal Koreh is reading the Torah? So Shulchan Aruch says that it's permitted to read Yachol Likroa Parasha Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum b'shat Kriyat Torah. While the Baal Koreh is reading the Torah, Shulchan Aruch is posek, it's permitted. It's permitted for you to read. There are those that say absolutely not. You can't read like that. You have to be listening to the Baal Koreh. And the Mishnah Berurah brings down that if you read quietly, so then it's permitted. And therefore you'd say, by reading that way, and you're not, and while you're reading, you could listen to the Baal Koreh. It doesn't disturb anybody because you're reading quietly. And you yotze with that Shnayim Mikra. It says, B'shat Adchak, a person is permitted to do such a thing. So therefore he read one time, and then he reads it again, or he read before, and does the Targum. One needs to ask, a question that I always had, is whether a person could read while the Baal Koreh is reading, which we said, it's not so simple if you could be, and be yotze with the Baal Koreh, which means it's an interesting thing. You could save so much time just by reading while the Baal Koreh is reading now the Torah, and listening to him, and being yotze shomea ke'oneh. So first of all, Shomea Ke'oneh in Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum is a big sugya. Magen Avraham and Lechem Chamudot permit to be yotze Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum Shomea Ke'oneh, which means you listen to the Baal Koreh and you yotze with him. You yotze with him. You could. But the Mishnah Berurah says you can't be yotze like that. Chacham Ovadia is posek, you can't be yotze like that. Kaf HaChaim doesn't permit. So there's a lot of poskim that don't permit. But let's say it's Shat Adchak. The Shulchan Aruch Harav writes that in Shat Adchak it's permitted. So you have over here with that halacha that a person, if he wants to rely, it's Shat Adchak for him, he wants to rely and be yotze with the Baal Koreh, the Kriyat Shnayim Mikra, one time from the Baal Koreh, while he himself reads together with the Baal Koreh, word for word, and that's it. You finish, finito. All you have to do afterwards is read the Targum, the Targum. That's it. Can you do that? You save so much time. So, of course, we're dealing with Shat Adchak, and of course, we're dealing that it's not lechatchila. It's not lechatchila for a few reasons. First of all, as I said, most poskim don't allow to be yotze with Shomea Ke'oneh, but just listening, and the Baal Koreh has intention to be motzi. Most poskim don't permit that, and even reading while reading the Torah, not so simple that it's permitted. The Mishnah Berurah permits. By the way, the Biur Halacha brings down from the Eliyahu Rabbah, שהוא מצווה מן המובחר לקרוא פרשה, שניים מקרא ואחד תרגום בשעת קריאת התורה, הוא מצווה מן המובחר, says Eliyahu Rabbah. The Biur Halacha rejects it. He said, I don't understand. Of course not. He completely says that it's not peleu. It's a wonder thing. But can you do such a thing? B'shat Adchak, you really don't have time. A person really don't have time. We have time today. You don't have time. You want to read Shnayim Mikra in such a way that you're listening to him while you are reading. So one could argue that maybe, I didn't find this, I looked in different places to see if anybody speaks about this. I didn't find, but I do see that there are places in other halachot that a person could be yotzeh like that. Like for instance, in Kriyat Megillah, the Rashba brings down that while you hearing the Megillah, if you're reading, you could be yotzeh the hearing, which means it doesn't interrupt to read while you are listening. But are you yotzeh the reading? Listen to this beautiful Minchat Elazar. He says, Minchat Elazar Munkach, he says that in Kriyat Zachor, there's an obligation for a person to say it in his own mouth. He brings down from the Maram El Ashkar that there's three things that a person must say in his mouth. For instance, Kiddush on Shabbat, a person must say in his mouth, which means you can't be yotzeh, according to his opinion. A person can't be yotzeh Kiddush on Shabbat from the person that does Kiddush. You have to say it in your mouth. Kriyat Shema, you can't be yotzeh from other people. Even if you want to be yotzeh, you can't. You're not yotzeh, you have to say it in your mouth. And the third thing is what we're saying right now, the Parashat Zachor. You can't be yotzeh, you have to say it in your own mouth. So therefore he says that while you hear Kriyat Torah, it has to be from the Torah. So you have to hear for the Baal Koreh reading Parashat Zachor, you have to say it also in your mouth. So you see, you're gaining two things. You're reading you're hearing Shomea Keoneh from the Baal Koreh, and you're reading in your mouth. It's exactly the same thing. That you could be doing both things and be yotzeh that and this. Same thing could be over here as well. This kind of question, it's a big question that we need to ask Dolei Torah. But this is what comes out to be the solution for somebody who really got stuck. Let's just get a couple of more halachot, then we'll take questions. It's already a little bit late. How do you read? How do you read Shnayim Mikra Echad Targum? Some say, the Mishnah Berurah brings down, some say that you read one pasuk twice and then the Targum. This is how you proceed. This is how it is according to Mekubalim. You read the psukim, two psukim and then the Targum. Others say that you read up to parasha. Sof parasha, as we said, parasha means that it's satum or patuach, and then you read it twice and then the Targum. The Mishnah Berurah says that David Kemanavid, you could do however you want. Most of the poskim rather a person do according to the way the Kabbalah instructs, and that is one pasuk twice and then go to the next one. It seems from the word in beginning of the halacha, it seems like the way the Shla says, Be'eretev brings down shikra kol parasha shte pa'amim v'achar כך תרגום אליה. Could be the whole parasha you could do and then do. And we already mentioned the Chazon Ish that says you do first one pasuk, Targum, and then another pasuk. Okay, there's different various ways if a person wants to do. Mishnah Berurah again says, however you do, from the two first options would be fine. Up to when do you read and from when do you read? The person is obligated to start reading from the beginning, from Mincha. From Mincha, you already, Mincha Shabbat, you're already holding by the next week. So therefore, at that time, a person could start reading Shnayim Mikra Echad Targum. Lemaise, the Shulchan Aruch says that Miyom Rishon ve'elach chashuv im hatzibur. From Sunday, already a person could start reading. Sunday, the Mishnah Berurah says, means from Mincha. That's what it means here. Not Sunday. It means from Mincha, Shabbat. That's already the time that you could read. And Matei Yehuda says that a person should read every day that aliyah until he reaches the end of the week. And the Alkut Yosef brings down that this is the opinion, the Matei Yehuda is the opinion of the Bet Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch. That's what he says, that that's mitzvah min hamuvchar. Others, according to the Mekubalim, the Gaon Mivilna, the Arizal used to read everything on Friday, Erev Shabbat, in the morning, right after Tefillah. He would go open up a Sefer Torah and read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum. According to the Kabbalah explains that the Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum brings in Kedushat Shabbat. When you read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum, it brings in the Kedushat Shabbat right then and there. My Chavruta, Shlita, told me that it says in the Arizal that once a person read Shnayim Mikra ve'Echad Targum in the morning, Kedushat Shabbat comes in, and then the Arizal right afterwards used to go to the mikveh, which means although mikveh on Erev Shabbat, the preferable time is from midday, from Chatzot, but if you read already Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum in the morning, let's say 7 o'clock in the morning, so then you can go and jump in the mikveh right away because the Kedushat Shabbat is right then and there. So you have over here a certain ma'ala that the Arizal used to do on Erev Shabbat, but again, according to Shulchan Aruch, every day you read that aliyah. This is how the Gaon Mivilna used to do. Every day you would read his own aliyah. But what it says in here is that you have mitzvah min hamuvchar, says the Shulchan Aruch, she'ashlim ota kodem she'ochal b'Shabbat, which means mitzvah min hamuvchar, not that you should read the whole parasha right after tefillah on Shabbat before you eat, but rather at least finish by that time. That is the end time. We spoke about when to start. When do you finish? When is your deadline? So according to Shulchan Aruch, the best time for deadline, not later than Seudat Shabbat. Seudat Shabbat, that should end it. The Biur Halacha explains that really could have been after, because you have until Mincha, as we explained. But we're afraid that while you eat, you forget about it. Food always gets you involved, and you start forgetting about what you need to do. So therefore, that would be the best time to finish is at least up to that time before the Seudah. If a person missed that, he has up to Mincha. That's how the Shulchan Aruch. ישלים אחר, אם לא ישלים קודם אכילה, ישלים אחר אכילה עד מנחה. ויש אומרים עד רביעי בשבת, which means Wednesday already is called upon the next week. So up to Wednesday, ולא עד בכלל, which means up to Tuesday, a person could still go, if he missed out, he could still go to the next week up to Tuesday. And if you didn't do even that, some say that you do until when? יש אומרים עד שמיני עצרת. The Mishnah Berurah adds שמיני עצרת שהיא שמחת תורה. That's when you finish. Now שמיני עצרת is not שמחת תורה ביאס. The way it's written over here in the Mishnah Berurah, היינו בארץ ישראל, ששם עושים שמיני עצרת רק יום אחד. But us, we do שמיני עצרת, and we have שמחת תורה afterwards. So we could go up to שמחת תורה בדיעבד. That would be the complete deadline. Another thing that we need to know is that Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum should be read in order, not to read one parasha. It needs to be kesidra, not to read first Sheni and then go to Rishon. And even if a person missed Shnayim Mikra this week and he wants to complete next week, the Kaf HaChaim says, Cham over there also brings, that he should read first the parasha, even though we're holding a week ahead, or 2 weeks, you missed 2 weeks. You should read in order, first what you missed, and then this week's parasha. So it's brought down nicely in Rav Chaim Kanievsky that if a person read first the Targum and then he wants to read the Mikra, which means he flips the order, not Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum, v'Echad Targum v'Shnayim Mikra, that not necessarily counts, it's a safek, and therefore a person should avoid doing that, and if he did it, he should repeat. There's much more halachot over here. I think the time is late. We have a question for a couple of questions, Rabbi? Bechavod, let's see. Now, again, I don't know the answers, but I know maybe the rabbi would be kind enough to give us the answer, or maybe we'll take for homework. Yeah, b'chavod. So, divrei Kabbalah nistarim mimeni, I don't know, you're mentioning the Arizal, but it does say over here that a person, according to Kabbalah, a person should read it all together without a hefsek. We mentioned that already. But you want to say that is what you get the segula of Ma'arichim lo yamav v'shnotav. The Gemara says that. I don't know if the Kabbalah has any restrictions of that, and I would assume that with the Sfarim that I looked, they would mention such a thing. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like that is talui one in the other. Although again, according to Kabbalah, it needs to be read without a hefsek, and hefsek means hefsek dibur, and the best time for it to be, according to the Kabbalah, is to read it Erev Shabbat, as we explained, because that brings in the orot kedushat Shabbat when you do that. Yes? So there's two ways how to do it. If you're reading it once, why do you need to break it up? You want to read it every day. So if you read it every day, you don't need to bring it according to Ptucha V'Stuma. Ptucha V'Stuma is if you read it at once, or you want to read a certain amount at once, so there you could stop. Those are places you could stop. But if you read it the way we explain from the Bet Yosef and from the way the guy used to do, is just you stop in the aliyot. The first aliyah, second aliyah, go to the seventh aliyah. Yeah. If you're reading it together between Sheni and Shlishi, it's not necessarily a Hefsek Parasha. You could stop there, but you could stop there. But if you intend to continue, so the Mishnah Berurah says it's Ra'ui v'Nachon not to stop in talking. It's Ra'ui v'Nachon. If it's very hard, so it's only Ra'ui v'Nachon. You have to talk on the phone. You have a bill. You have to talk to your wife. It's whatever it is. Then it's permitted. Yeah. Can we? It could be. I didn't see it written down. The Mishnah Berurah openly says that a person should stop between the parashot, not the aliyot, wherever it says tucha or stuma. That's how the Mishnah Berurah brings down. It could be that there's such a thing. Amazing. Chok Israel, of course, is למעלה ולמעלה, לעילא ולעילא. It's brought down in the Sfarim HaKadoshim about Chok Israel. Or Etzion says it's an obligation, of course. How is it done? נפלא ממנו. בכבוד. אין הכי נמי. Yes, yes. You mean the translation? English. Speak to us English. Oh, overview. So we said that Rashi is preferable than reading the Targum. And Rashi, if you have somebody that gives you an understanding on the parasha, could be is not less. Because it's brought down over here. The Mishnah Berurah says that if one reads the Tzena or Ena, which is exactly what it is, it tells you about the parasha. You want to read about Tzena or Ena, it's in Yiddish. But if you had a translation, maybe today they have a translation in English. So of course that would that would work. There's things that are preferable to that, to read the Targum itself, to read Rashi. But if a person doesn't read any of that, he could do. Yes. Targum. It says that about the Targum. Atarot v'Divon, and also Rivon Shimun. Then, since it's not Targum on this, it's the same exact thing. So you read it 3 times. It's brought down here that if you're able, read the Yerushalmi instead of. It says, Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum. אפילו Atarot v'Divon רוצה לומר אף על פי שאין בו תרגום, והוא הדין ראובן ושמעון. ויש מחמירים בהתרות בלבד שיש בו תרגום ירושלמי לקרות שם התרגום. But it doesn't say that on Rashi. If you don't have Rashi, then you keep on going. And achinami. So that's what the Mishnah Berurah says, that there is a ma'ala to read the Targum, because then you don't miss anything. But you don't have to. The Biur Halacha brings down that you read Rashi, you yotze. That's good. Ba'ala of Targum, that if you do Targum, it's a Yireh Shamayim, it's a special, you get extra credit, is that he goes through every pasuk. Yes, according to that, yes, and echinami. But again, we're not paskening like that, but the Minchas Elazar brings this down from the Maram El Ashkar. It's written Maram El Shakar. I heard from Rav Yosef Cohen. It's called El Ashkar, which makes a lot of sense for anybody that understands Arabic. And yes, but again, we don't paskin like that. There's always shitos yechidos. There's always anomalies. This seems to be an anomaly, not a. I mean, there's milas in Kriyat Shema, we understand. That's a Rashba says that there's three things that a person needs to say by himself: Kriyat Shema, Tfilah, and Birkat HaMazon, not be yotzeh with others. Kiddush, because it says Zachor v'Shamor, it's an obligation. But the limud with a kid is that to get people involved in the learning. If you could do it in other ways, I guess that's fine. It's not necessarily that it's a din in dibur. Those things is a din in dibur, Kriyat Shema, Zachor, and the schira of Amalek also. Yeah, I don't know. Igata Levincha means that there's a din in dibur. It means that the person, I think, it's a din that a person should get involved in the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, whether there's some things, for instance, Limud Torah, it says, Shinantam Levanecha, you don't have to do it yourself. You can hire somebody and you yaitze with that. It's preferable person should do it himself. But a person could hire somebody. Also could be here, if let's say, Lu Yetzur, a person can do it for some reason, he hires somebody to speak with his son, or gets his son involved in other ways. I think could be that it's fine, but it could be also a kasha. It could be that it's kasha. Could be. I don't. Yeah, Havod, another questions, please. Reading means only the eyes. Right, I don't understand. Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum, of course you have to say it. It's something you have to say. That's why it says of Nisim Korelit, you have to say, if you decide to do Rashi, it's a chidush. Because Rashi means you're learning. Why do you have to say it? But he felt that just like Targum, you have to say the Targum. Why it's not enough to look in the Targum if you're just learning? Because it's a din to say. Chamim established that you have to say, so you have to say also the Rashi. It's a chidush. Nobody said it before him, but you can understand where it comes from. But of course, Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum, you have to say from your mouth. You don't have to listen. You don't have to hear. It's not a din like Kriyat Shema that Shema Shishmeu Aznecha. But and therefore you could read quietly while the Baal Koreh reads the Torah. But you have to say them. It has to be nechtach milim nechtachot mipiv. That's how it seems like. You're reading Rashi. Could be Yotzeh not with every word, with understanding, but... So that was asked already. It seems like you Yotzeh without reading the Rashi. If a person takes upon himself to learn Rashi, you should know it's amazing things. Within a couple of years, you'll be you get so much knowledge in the Chumash. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful. Probably not. It's only Dibur Matchil. By the way, if you mentioned that already, the Arizal says that when you finish Shnayim Mikra, you don't finish with the Targum, but rather read again the last pasuk in the parasha in Lashon HaKodesh, just like we found in Rosh Hashanah, that when we do the 10 psukim of Malchuyot, Zichronot, Shafarot, the last one of the 10 first is, right? The last one is from the Chumash. So you say, let's say Malchuyot, you say Shema Yisrael in the ends for Malchuyot. Same thing here. You want to finish B'Mikra. The Divrei Chaim, Mitzans, used to read few psukim from the next parasha in order to connect the parashiyot. There's such an idea by the Arizal that when you Sofer writes Tefillin, so he finishes one parasha. Let's say you start with the first parasha of Kadesh Li, so you go before you finish, but when you finish, you start the next parasha right away. If you didn't start, so you have to go and next time you come to write, put some ink on the last letters of the previous parasha and could go to the next parasha. That's how the result says, to connect the parashiyot together. Yeah. No, that's just Mareh Makom of where he's holding. Yeah, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Reading a Ta'amim, that's how the Arizal, by the way, used to do it. Reading Ta'amim is absolute ma'ala. But if you want to do like the Arizal did, which means to read from the Sefer Torah itself, then I saw that there's an obligation to read with the Ta'amim. In other words, if you don't know Ta'amim, could be that it's problematic to read from the Sefer Torah itself. You have to read it with the Ta'amim. Definitely there's a ma'ala to read with the Ta'amim. No, not Likuva. Not everybody knows Ta'amim. Three reasons for? Right, so if you want to see the reasons, I'll repeat them now, but if you want to see the reasons, they are in my newsletter, which you can grab from every shul. I hope they come here, but you can grab it across the street from in Bnei Yosef. And I had it this week, and next week, Bezrat Hashem, we'll have Halachot for the honor of the Nino. And we said that there's few reasons. One reason is brought down in the Sefer Chanuch and the Rosh is that a person should have depth in the understanding of the parasha. And for that we said we understand the reason for the Targum, but reading the parasha itself, we know already. And then there's a reason that's brought down in the Ramban. This Ramban is brought down into Tumat Hadesh, and he brings the Ramban, is that a person should finish, just like the Kahal finishes, he should also finish. And the reason that's brought down in the Tumat Hadesh from Rabbeinu Hanan, and also the Meiri says thing, is that a person should be fluent with reading. Ravan said, by the way, Ravan has a shita mechudeshes. He said that a person is not obligated to reach Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum unless he doesn't live in a place that has a shul. So if you live in Antarctica, I don't know, today every place you have Chabad, but a place that you don't even have Chabad, so you live if you used to live in Gaza, today also Gaza has Chabad, in Hashem, they're going to have soon, best investment. So if you live in such a place, that's where you reach Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum. But in a place, you go to shul, what's the purpose of reading Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum? Lemaise, the Ravan says it works well with his shita that you reach Shnayim Mikra v'Echad Targum keneged the Baal Koreh, the Ole, and the Metargem, which comes out beautiful. That's only in a place that there's no reading. Yev Chavod. How many more questions? I don't want to keep the kahal too long. Rabbi, how long we have another? 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? 4 minutes, bechavod. You made a mistake in the pasuk? You read the first... Oh, you read the whole parasha. So read it again when you're there. You're right then there. Why don't you read it again correctly? Yeah, you're right then. Fix it. Fix it. So I'll tell you what. There's a sugya that needs to be discussed in length, and that is the sugya of making mistakes. When is a mistake is valid, and when a mistake is not valid? The Shulchan Aruch brings down that when you're reading the Torah itself, if you made a mistake that changes the mashmaut, of course, while you're reading, if you make a mistake, people should correct you. Zoafimbo. But if it was read and was finished, it depends if it changes the mashmaut. It doesn't change the mashmaut. There's a sugya in Shulchan Aruch about that. If that's not for now. Another sugya is that if a person is a starter, is just starting to read. So then I also wrote about this in my sefer, the first sefer on Korona Shafi Yativ. If a person makes a mistake while he's starting to learn how to read, or he's a beginner, so then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that he loves that. There's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim about this. V'dilgo alay ahava, v'diglo alay ahava, v'dilgo, although he's skipping, although he's making mistakes, Hashem loves it. Of course, that's good only for a person by himself, but not to be motzi as a chazan and others. So those are big sugiyot, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you all for coming. Bezrat Hashem, continue, start with the Shtayim Yomi.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.